You go on a first date with someone, what habit or characteristic is a deal breaker? Spending the whole time on their phone. Modified version, they always seem to be on their phone but never reply to you. They only want to talk about themselves. I once had a 2-hour blind date. By the end, I knew everything about this girl. I knew all of her cats by name, and what their favorite movies were. She asked me literally nothing, and just kept jumping from topic to topic. At the end of the date, she wanted to trade numbers, and I couldn't help but ask, "What's my name?" and she didn't know. So I just paid for my meal and left. I'm sorry, her cats had favorite movies? I'm imagining you going over to her place and a tabby rubs against your foot. Oh, you must be Matilda, who loves natural-born killers. Good choice. Oh, and is that Randolph? You really couldn't think of anything better than snakes on a plane? I've seen being rude to waitstaff a dozen times in here. Are that many people rude to waiters? No source, am waiter. I'd say roughly 1/200th people are actually rude, especially without reason. Now I do also believe people are generally more rude to a waitress, but that is my experience. Constantly talking about their exes. I feel like there's a balance needed. For Misa and I, we were upfront about weird issues we brought with us from past relationships. Everyone has baggage. You gotta be able to talk about it so your new boo won't be confused when something unimportant to them stresses you out completely. I know there are things that would have really annoyed me, because we talked about our past relationship issues. It was a lot easier to grow past it and be better with one another. They talk over me and spend the conversation giving me unsolicited advice about how to live my life. I feel like I need to specify that I was thinking of one specific first date that did not become a second date when I answered this, lol. The guy didn't like that I had dyed my hair blonde at the bottom and spent a lot of the date telling me about the dangers of bleaching your hair and how I should learn to make better choices. I just wanted to have a good dinner, man. On their phone the whole time. If you can't disconnect for an hour or so to engage with me, then it's not going to work. Right? I'm on a date as I'm reading this entire thread and I can't believe how much of it I agree with. This B***TCH keeps tutting and clearing her throat loudly and I don't know why. Learn some manners. Too much discussion about money. Not a date, but first time meeting my current Chiefs friends. The one's first question to me was, "So what do you do for a living? How much do you make?" I've never forgotten it and haven't cared for her since that moment. That actually happened to me once and it was the first and only time I walked out of a date. I was just finishing university and got drinks with this girl and her first question was about what I was doing for work and how much I was making. I had used to work 2 part-time jobs before this, but quit both of them when my online business took off. She must have thought I was lying or it was some rinky-dink thing I was doing, despite me explaining, in detail, what I did. She then asked in a hostile way if I had any plans for the future with my life, and I told her that I was applying for a few jobs since it was my final 3 months of school, and she cut me off and went, "So, you have no plans with your future is basically what you're saying." Thankfully, I had a $50 bill in my pocket, so I reached in and slapped it on the table and just said, "Enjoy the French fries," and walked right out. Lol. I get that a lot of people get nervous and misspeak on first dates, but there is no reason to be rude to someone like this. Doing this also greatly added to my confidence and it serves as a reminder that no matter how bad a date goes, I'll always walk away completely fine. Someone who makes me read their bad poetry. This has happened to me more than once. Editors, I just woke up to a bunch of responses and I can't possibly reply to them all individually. I don't hate poetry, I very much like it. Especially Vogon poetry. However, on a first date, there is a huge difference between, "Have you read this poem by X? What do you think of this bit?" and "Here is my notebook, read it all and tell me what you think." Story bits for those who asked. The first time this happened I was 18 and we met through mutual friends. While it wasn't great, it wasn't emo angsty levels of bad. Unfortunately, he then started sending me poetry he had written about me and calling me his muse. This after having met once. He then went full stalker. So yeah, nope. Second time was some years later. It was bad, but I was not mean about it. We continued chatting, then said goodnight politely and parted. The next day he went from "I had a really nice time, give me a call" to "I am sure you are busy, but please reply" to "clearly you are ignoring me, so let's never speak again" in the space of a 3-hour barrage of text messages. I was at work, so I didn't see the messages till lunchtime. I was once set up to go on a blind date with this girl. We were given each other's email addresses, and so I hit her up, we exchanged a few pleasantries, then set up a date, time to finally meet. The day of, I get an email from her in the morning with an attachment. I open up the attachment and there is a questionnaire with like 25 to 30 questions on it. She requested I kindly fill out the questionnaire before we meet. I quickly reviewed the questions before sending her a reply saying that it's probably best we don't meet. I don't know what characteristic she embodied, but I'd say that was a deal breaker. What kind of questions were they? I don't recall the exact questions, as it was a long time ago, but I do remember some were as innocuous as dog or cat, but others required further explanation, like who is your favorite person in the world? What has she done to make you like them so much? It was insane. I've had job interviews that were less thorough. Lying, even, if not especially, about small things. I was once told that someone had gone down a hill on the bike so fast a speed camera clocked them at 234 miles per hour, ignoring that that's faster than the world record on a bike. Why are you making this up? Getting so drunk on the first date that you can't figure out Uber and I have to drive you home. No, you can't stay on my couch, I don't know you. I did this once. That relationship ended up lasting 2 years though. Was going to just be a hookup, my first time doing that, so I got drunk to not be nervous, got too drunk, he took me back to his house and out me in pajamas and fed me pizza and held my hair while I puked. I thought he would never want to see me again, but he was cool about it. I don't hate people who smoke particularly, but my parents smoked so much that I promised myself to never date someone who smoked. I used to smoke. I have been smoke-free for 3.5 years now. It is amazing how different I smell, and how I never noticed. I don't know how non-smokers put up with being around me smoking all the time. If they are hard to talk to, might not make them a bad person, but obviously there is no chemistry if all I get are one-word answers where they also don't reciprocate questions. So you're a teacher, right? Yep. Well, that's cool. What grade? Second. Or what a great age. That's like the perfect time, cause kids still kind of like school. Check please. Children. I wish all the best to all the single parents in the world, but I am not signing up to be a step-parent. As a single parent, I respect that you acknowledge this is a deal breaker. I wish people who feel that way would be more upfront. I'm a package deal and that's just not for everybody. Lying about their appearance. Very specific app example, guess which one. But you see the pictures, they look nice and then they are different in person. What's the point? As a rule, if they have dog ears, a butterfly halo, or are puking a rainbow, what you see isn't what you'll get. Being a know-it-all. I had lunch with someone who called the table salt sodium chloride and used the bread as a way to tell me everything he knew about complex carbohydrates, some of which wasn't even correct, and their connections to evolutionary theory. Just felt like he was compensating for something. I know a girl who asks every guy she goes on a date with what his credit score is. She wants to make sure they're financially stable. Also, she's 23 and doesn't know how to pump gas. Repeatedly interrupting me when I'm talking, especially when I'm answering a question they asked. It tells me they're not actually engaged in what I'm saying. Oh, I have another. If a person tells you they are in love with you after one day together, they might try to move into your house, then try to attack you when you ask them to leave. But that's a story for another time. One-upping edit. When I lived in the Midwest, it was literally just part of the culture. Telling stories and being one-upped was something you were desensitized to. I ran into a wall once I moved west where people pointed out that I did it, so I stopped. Now when I go on dates I usually get into things people are passionate about. If it's all about one-upping experiences then it's goals and meaning based on other people. Big turn off. There are a lot of people my age that are essentially living at a speed like Justin from Parks and Rec, and it's a shame. I learned and appreciated so much more slowing down and being present for things alone. The Midwest is also rampant with superlatives. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Scariest thing that's ever happened to me. Asking me 0 questions about myself while talking incessantly about themselves. It's alarming how many dudes do this. Why bother going on a date with another human if all you want is to hear yourself talk? If they're going out with me, that's the deal breaker right there. Shows severe lack of judgment on their part. Honey, I'd like a divorce. You failed the test. You slept with me on no less than 773 occasions, married me, and procreated 2 admittedly beautiful children with me. All of these demonstrate a severe lack of judgment on your part. Also, is that cousin of yours that lives in Vermont still single? The amount of guys who think negging is a good flirting technique is ridiculous. Contrary to what you read on WikiHow, insulting a girl doesn't make her want to impress you, it just makes her realize you're AD*CK. One guy the first matched with on Tinder asked me for my Snapchat, and when I gave it to him he said, "Oh, I don't want it, I'm not attracted." Wouldn't want to go on a date or anything disgusting like that. He was trying to flirt but it was an instant turn off. I'm not here to be insulted or put down, and being rude isn't cute. Their drinking manners: if they insist I drink, or suggest drinks, shots after I've declined multiple times, I'll either think you have a problem, or you're trying to get me drunk, both of which I don't want. Men who insist you come over, or they come over. I'm all about prolonging a good date, and would love to go to another spot, but I really hate when men invite me over to their place, or suggest coming to mine at the end of the night. Even worse when they get super pouty when I decline.